Hey guys, welcome back to the best YouTube movie talk show all on YouTube. We're better than any other talk show that you know that talks about movies, because in this channel, if you're a big movie nerd, movie geek, or anything that loves movies, then you're in the right place. So please go ahead, hit that subscribe button, put on the notification bells, hit that like button, comment down below to help the algorithm, because I'm trying to beat the YouTube algorithm. That way I can grow this channel and provide you guys with the best content possible. Now anyways, please, like I said, hit the subscribe button. It only takes 1 second, makes a big difference. And please also share the videos to all your fellow film fans, because these podcasts are the best podcast, the best movie talk show on YouTube. So anyways, we're on episode 6, and today we're going to be talking about, could a live action Spideyverse movie potentially beat Endgame in the box office? But before we get into that, I really want to apologize. So for those that saw my last podcast where I was talking about Wonder Woman 84, how good the early reviews have been, I want to apologize because in that video I made an editing mistake. And look, I'm getting new into editing, so for me, editing is kind of a new concept. And yes, I've been editing for a long time. You know, I remember when I was younger, I would make like vines and all these other things. And so editing, I'm not really a very good editor so far on YouTube. And so my podcast was supposed to be 20 minutes, and I accidentally put my podcast twice, and I made a massive mistake on that. So I really want you guys to forgive me. I apologize for that, because some of y'all might have been confused. I have not gotten any complaints yet, and that video did really well actually. So to me, it was a bit surprising that I was getting no complaints, but I was getting, good things, being like good ratings on the video. No one noticed that, but it's 48 minutes. So basically in that video, it just stopped by the 20 something minute. So I really apologize. I know you guys trust me to provide the best content possible. But anyways, today we're going to be talking about something that I feel like I haven't heard anyone talk about, and that is, could a live action Spideyverse beat Endgame in the box office? So let me get some context out the way. Endgame, when it got released, it shattered so many records. And I expected to shatter some records, but not as many records as I thought. I even told people I don't think it's going to beat Avatar in the box office. That opening weekend, oh my gosh, strong results. And it was still going on strong. And then eventually, Endgame beat Avatar in the box office. And, I mean, it happened. I was like, yo. Because I remember when I was younger, Avatar was such a historical movie. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it came out 2010. I was like 8 years old, and I was like, I want to go watch Avatar, because the movie was it was so popular. It was, everyone was talking about it. And I remember I wanted to go watch it, but I fortunately didn't until a few years after. I remember lots of people saying it was a historical movie, and so for years I was like, Avatar's never going to be beaten. It's never going, or I did say it would be beaten eventually, but I said it was going to take something huge, and it did. Endgame, 22 movies anticipated, and a movie with so many, like a power cast, and that's what it took to beat Avatar. And lots of people have been going on this bandwagon train on hating on Avatar, saying, I don't know how Avatar even got. I'm sorry, but you can hate the movie all you want, but one thing that's undeniable is you should respect the film for what it did. The movie wasn't famous because it was great. The movie was famous because of how amazing it was, how the technology was so advanced, and that's why it became so popular. And I hate when fans, like, I meet so many fans, even my sister says things like this, but they're like, how did Avatar even get to number 1? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm sorry, but do a little bit of research and then talk to me. Like, I don't think Avatar is that great. I'm going to be honest with you guys. But I know enough to respect it, and I still think it's a pretty decent film, to be like, hey, you know what? It did its best. The fact that it took 22 movies with a star-studded lineup and a giant budget to beat Avatar says enough. But anyways, Spideyverse and Endgame rivalry. So I got this from the channel Soups. If you guys don't know who Soups is, it's this big a superhero channel that talks about like superhero movies, comics, and etc. So go subscribe to him. So he was reacting to a fan-made Spideyverse trailer, And he said something like, Spider-Man movie, a Spideyverse movie could be Endgame. And I was thinking to myself, could it? So I decided, why not do it as a podcast episode? And look, this is what I have to say. Well, before I do that, let me drink some water real quick. Hold up. Just give me 1 minute. Alright. Apologize for that, boys. But, where were we? Oh, yeah. The reason why I'm going to say this, well, you're going to hear why. I'm not trying to be harsh. I want to see a Spideyverse film with Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Tom Holland. I've said this before. I love all other Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire was my childhood Spider-Man, and he is my personal favorite. In fact, my wallpaper on my phone is legit a fan-made edit of all three of them together. I love Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. I'm always defending his Spider-Man. I feel like the only other thing that I defend more than BVS is how great Andrew Garfield was as Spider-Man, because I constantly get people telling me, "Oh, Andrew Garfield was such a bad actor." I'm sorry. If you say that, you probably didn't watch the films. I'm sorry. I know it's all subjective, but if you say his acting was bad, that's where I step in and I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, but I'm not gonna listen to you. I am not. He's just a phenomenal actor. In fact, I'm gonna say this right now. Out of all three actors, he is the best actor, but he is not my favorite of them. Tobey Maguire is. Tom Holland, I loved his new version. I love how they decided not to go comic accurate, because I get tired of those comic accurate fanboys being like, "Ooh." Although I will not lie, I wish they did mention Uncle Ben and stepped away from Tony Stark. And yeah, I love all three Spider-Man, but I'm going to say this right now. I know it's going to sound harsh. I know it's going to sound rude, but I don't care. This podcast is for me to give my honest opinions on films. And I'm going to say this right now. I think there's only a good 2% chance that a Spideyverse live action film beats Endgame in the box office. And I genuinely believe that. First off, we don't even know if this is going to happen. So, yeah. And I'm giving it a 2% chance because I don't believe anything's impossible. I mean, we live in a world where Jared Leto's Joker's coming back, Jamie Foxx's Electro's coming back, Ben Affleck's coming back as Batman, and Michael Keaton's going to be in a Flashpoint film as Batman. Can you believe that? Can you believe what world we live in? And now we're talking about a Spideyverse film, which as of now has not been confirmed. Even if it's from that Latin America Sony YouTube channel, I don't care. It's not been confirmed. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we will be getting it. In fact, I'll tell you this right now. I give it a 40% chance that this film gets made. I do. And if it does, I might not be the third Tom Holland film. But who knows? I hope, in a way, we see these three. I will say this, though. If I was a Sony executive, I would have not put this film as the third Tom Holland film. I would put it as the fourth one, so that way we can complete the trilogy for Tom Holland. That way he can be his own Spider-Man and eventually meet up with the other Spider-Man. But that's not what we're here to discuss. What I'm here to discuss is, could it be in the box office? And I'm going to say this again. No, I don't think so. If I was to bet the odds, I would say Endgame would still be on top. Do I think a live-action Spideyverse could hit a billion in the box office? Yeah. I feel like that's almost guaranteed because remember, Tom Holland's Spider-Man, he is the most profitable Spider-Man of all time. Tobey Maguire, he has a massive fan base. I'm in that part. Andrew Garfield, as much as many people don't want to accept this, but Andrew Garfield has a massive amount of fans. Not as much as Tobey Maguire and Tom Holland, but he has a giant fan base. And I do think it could help the $1 billion mark. And let's not forget Spider-Man itself. Without these actors, Spider-Man already is a massive property. And also another thing helping it is, remember, we just recently got a Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And I don't think I've met a single person who's said that they hated this film. I love this film. I love it. I even have a giant poster here that says Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And at the top I put papers that say anyone can wear the mask, even you. And, I think that some of the momentum of that film might transpire to this one. But ultimately, I think it's only going to hit $1 billion in the box office. I don't think it's going to hit $2 billion. I don't think it's going to be Endgame. I don't even think it's going to be Avatar nor Titanic. I apologize. Maybe it could be Infinity War. I don't know. But the reason why I say this is because the thing about Endgame is of the momentum. First off, you had 22 other films lined up to prepare for this film. People went to go watch this because this movie was this historical spectacle of a film. It was, because everyone knew so many movies, so many characters, and I think the number one thing that boosted Endgame to be that big of a financial success was Infinity War. Infinity War was basically one giant marketing for Endgame, let's be honest. I love Infinity War, and the reason why most people went to Endgame, and I know, I think I'm going to say that a good 8 people who have told me this, who said, hey, I heard about Infinity War, I want to go watch Endgame. I had this one friend, the day before the premiere for Endgame, I remember he asked me, and was like, hey, could I come with you guys to go watch Endgame? And I was like, yo, he's someone who never talks about movies, he never talks about comic books, and the thing is because Infinity War was just too historically big, and it caused Endgame success. Infinity War, everyone was hearing about the snap, everyone was hearing about how great Thanos was. A lot of people went to go watch Infinity War, a lot of non-Marvel fans went to go watch Infinity War. In fact, my little sister, who I think I already mentioned in this podcast, but she never watched comic book films. The only other film she had seen prior to this film was Batman vs. Superman, which she didn't like much. But she watches Infinity War because she heard all about the hype. She was like, hey, I want to watch Infinity War. And the funny thing is, just a week prior, I bought my Blu-ray plus DVD copy of Infinity War. And so I'm like, all right, I pop in the disc. She watches it. She likes it. She doesn't love it, but she likes it. She watches Doctor Strange after, because I told her you should watch some of the solo movies. She watches Doctor Strange and she falls in love with movies. And now she's a massive movie geek like me. She loved the Joker movie. She loved all these other movies. So that's right there is proof of how Endgame worked. Not Endgame, Infinity War. And Infinity War, everyone hearing, wait, the superheroes lost? Spider-Man and Black Panther dead? What? And especially Black Panther. I do think some of Black Panther rubbed off on Infinity War, where people were like, wait, but we just had his solo movie. How is he dead now? And then Endgame. Everyone wanted to go watch Endgame because it was a historical spectacle. And Thanos. Everyone was talking about Thanos. I remember... I think I was at an airport and I heard like an old elderly couple talking about that new Infinity War movie with Thanos. And never in my life did I think I'd hear people talking about Thanos so much. I remember when I was younger, Thanos was one of my favorite comic book villains. And I was like, man, one day I hope to see him on the big screen. And never in my life did I think that would happen. A lot of people during that time period of Infinity War and Endgame, which was an entire year, a lot of them were getting into the MCU. A lot of them were like, oh, I want to watch the Iron Man movies. I want to watch the Spider-Man movies. And a lot of people became fans. And I know a lot of friends who became MCU fans the minute Infinity War became popular. Infinity War had a massive trend because of how it did the one thing that nobody thought would happen, and that is kill off the heroes. And I know a lot of my comic book fans are going to be like, oh, but I knew they would kill off the heroes and bring them back the next film. Well, I got to tell you this. The general audience didn't know. And the general audience, when they hear that, they're like, wait, what? And so they go watch Infinity War, and they're like, no way. And then they hear that Endgame's going to happen. And, of course, Endgame, they're like, I got to go watch this. I want to see how they bring them back from the impossible snap. Like, do they kill Thanos? Do they time travel? What? I remember there were so many theories. I remember getting into all the theories and telling my friends all these theories. I remember for the longest time I called Avengers Endgame. I didn't call it Endgame. I called it Avengers Annihilation because that was the theory. And then I was saying how Captain America would sacrifice himself at the end of the film and how Hawkeye would also sacrifice himself. The funny thing is the opposite happened. And then I also thought we would see a teaser for Galactus, and there were so many theories, and that's what I think happened. The whole surprise factor of Infinity War is what caused Endgame to be so popular and widely known. Not only that, but also the other fans that were enjoying since for all 22 films. That's why I actually think Captain Marvel got $1 billion in the box office, because a lot of the new fans of Infinity War were like, oh my god, maybe this has some secret to Captain Marvel. I'm not gonna lie, when I went to go watch Captain Marvel, the one thing I wanted to know is there anything for Endgame? Of course, one of the number one priorities was to see if this was a great film, which wasn't. And I want to see if there was anything new. I see the post-credit, I'm like, oh my god, yo, Captain Marvel teams up with the Avengers! Even though I didn't really like Captain Marvel, but I still find it cool that she teams up with the Avengers. Apologies, I had to look out the window. But oh my god, I was so shocked. And that's the thing. That I think is the main example. Spideyverse, what does it have? Oh, some nostalgic fans over the first Tobey Maguire fans. Some nostalgic fans over Andrew Garfield. Some Tom Holland fans. Yes, I do think that will hit $1 billion in the box office. I'm going to say this right now. I do think it's going to hit $1 billion in the box office. But I do not think it's going to be Endgame, just for the simple fact that there's no momentum. There is no previous films that are going to hype up this. There is no big marketing technique that Infinity War had. Because maybe if I don't know, if in the last Far From Home at the end you had Toby and Andrew walk out of the portal, a lot of fans would probably be hyped. But let's also remember, a lot of fans don't really know about Toby and Andrew. Remember, Tom Holland's Spider-Man has a new generation of fans out there. Like, I talked to my little nephew. He's like 8 years old. And he was talking about Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man this. And I asked him, do you know Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man? He was like, no. And then I asked him, do you know Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man? And he's like, no. And I'm like, do you know Tom Holland's Spider-Man? And he was like, yeah, I love Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Or he didn't say Holland exactly. I think he just said, he didn't even know the names, I think. But I showed him pictures and he was like, yeah, I love that version. And that Spider-Man has a new generation of fans. And that's something us fans of Tobey and Andrew have to understand, that really not that many people care too much about Toby and Andrew. Yes, I do think the fans are going to be amazed, and if the trailers are really good, some of the general audience will be like, oh my god, we know that Tobey Maguire, because Tobey Maguire is very iconic. I remember junior year, I was in this English class. Some of the people in that class probably are watching this podcast. Hello, if you're out there. I'm not going to reveal the teacher's name, but my junior year English class, 7th period. But we were watching Great Gatsby. And I don't know if you guys know this, but in Great Gatsby, Tobey Maguire plays Nick Carraway. Hello, old sport. And I'm not going to lie, the only two things I loved about Great Gatsby was Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire. Leonardo DiCaprio, I've said this before, he's my favorite actor of all time. I think he's the best that there has ever been. And Tobey Maguire is probably the actor who I'd cry the most if he was to pass away, just because of how iconic his Spider-Man was. But anyways, in that class, I was known as the one geeky fanboy over comic books. I would wear my Batman shirt, my Marvel shirts, my Superman shirts, my Spider-Man shirts. And I remember I would always talk about movies and everything movie. And I was a massive movie geek, and I still am, of course. And I remember a lot of people like in that class would be like, oh, I've seen Black Panther before, so I guess I've seen comic book films. And I'd just be like, okay. But anyways, I remember a lot of when we turned in that movie. Let me remind you, there was only like a good other 3 other students who were massive comic book fans like me. But in that class, when Tobey Maguire popped up, they're like, hey, that's Spider-Man. Because yes, there is a massive generation of Tobey Maguire fans. So I do think that's going to help. And I do think that there's also going to be a lot of Andrew Garfield fans. I said this before. I do think it's going to hit $1 billion in the box office. But I don't think it's going to beat Endgame for the sheer fact that there's not as much momentum as Endgame's. There is not. There really isn't. Even if they were to drop a trailer right now that was so good that made us fans pee ourselves. Even for that fact. It's just, that's the one thing I gotta say. It doesn't have the momentum. It doesn't have the build-up. It doesn't have the whole, the Infinity War treatment, where Infinity War's cliffhanger is what caused Endgame to be such a financial success. And that's what I keep telling people. A lot of them are like, Spideyverse is going to compete with Endgame in the box office. And I say this, nope, it's not. More than likely, it's not. I'm not saying it's impossible. It is possible. And if it does, well, I'll be watching this podcast and laughing at myself for thinking that stupid idea. But as of now, the facts and the sheer evidence proves otherwise. I don't think a Spideyverse film is enough to top Endgame. Do I think Endgame could be top someday? Yeah. But is it for sure that a Spideyverse film can do it? It's not for sure. I've said this before. I only give it a 2% chance. I, of course, never give a movie 0% chance. But, 2% chance is enough. And, yeah, that's what I believe. I genuinely believe what I'm saying is the truth. And, what was I going to say? Yeah, I can't even tell you what kind of film would it take to beat Endgame. I don't think, even as much as I love Matt Reeves' The Batman trailer so far and how that's the movie that's hyped me up the most, I gotta say it. I don't think that's gonna beat it. More than likely. Not saying anything's impossible. I don't think we're gonna see Endgame beat it until at least a good 5 years. Because the only reason why I say that is because I don't know what movie will come out in 5 years. Godzilla vs. Kong probably ain't gonna do the job. I mean, Godzilla King of Monsters was not a flop, but it didn't make the money that they expected. So of course, I really don't know what could be Endgame, but I'm just gonna say this: a Spideyverse film. Really, I can't tell. And also another factor going against Spideyverse is the fact that the pandemic is still out there. So I get in trouble when I say the virus's name. So I'm not gonna say the virus's name, but you guys already know. But the pandemic. Let's say Spideyverse film comes out next December. A vaccine right now is being talked about. What's Pfizer's? I think that's what they're called. But a new vaccine has been talked about recently. We don't know when this vaccine is going to come out. We don't know if it's real. We don't know if it really is going to happen. But let's say there is no vaccine and we still live. Because remember back in March, we were saying how by July, it will be the end of the pandemic. Everything will be normal. And look at where we are. We're in December. It's almost my birthday, December 15th, by the way. It's almost Christmas. And we're still in the pandemic. LA is still in a lockdown. Where I'm from, there is no lockdown, and that's why I'm going to theaters. I go help the theaters, although my money really ain't much, let's be honest. But, yeah. Look, if, let's say the vaccine never happens, then, first of all, if that box office score is going to do bad, but I don't think it's even going to reach the 2 billion mark. And let's not forget, Sony and Marvel probably don't want to risk such a big event, because I think I've said this to friends already. If Endgame was to come, pretend Endgame was supposed to be released 2020 of March, well, till this day I'm actually so glad that they were doing it back to back. Imagine how it would have been if we had constantly got delays for that film. Oh my god, that would be so bad. I'm not even gonna lie. But if Endgame was to go through the delays, I know Marvel and Sony would not even think about releasing Endgame if it was in these dire circumstances. Unless there was a vaccine, everyone's for sure. And let's not forget, even let's say right now, all of a sudden there's no vaccine, but all the cases go down, people would still be worried. Why? There is no vaccine. And it's been proven with Tenet. It's been proven with a ton of films. Now, yes, I do think a Spideyverse film could make more money than Tenet, even in this current circumstances. But let's be honest, it's not going to make $1 billion if the pandemic is still going on, because there's many things going against it. First of all, lots of people don't even want to go to the theaters. And second of all, lots of people don't even know their local theaters are open. In fact, my local theater, the one that's like 10 minutes away from me, I didn't even know it was open until I went to go check if Tenet was going to come out. Now, I was telling people, oh man, I really want to watch Tenet, but my theater's closed. And then I went to go do some search on Fandango. And I was wrong. I was like, yo, my theater is open. Yay! And I was so glad. That was like one of the happiest. And I also watched New Mutants. But that's not how most people are. Most people are like, why should I go risk my life to go watch Spider-Man hit the web shooters? And then we also got another section. LA and New York are both closed. Their theaters are closed. I have a friend in New York who told me that the theaters there are closed. And especially in the Manhattan area, wherever. In LA, it's closed. John Campea has said that LA is closed because over there they're more in a lockdown than we are over here where I'm from, Houston, Texas. But anyways, and then also the Chinese market. The Chinese market is the second biggest market in movie. Like without China, the movies we have right now would not do as well. But basically in China, the theaters are still probably closed, or for the most part. I don't know that for sure. I could be wrong, but if the theaters are closed, then it's not going to make $1 billion. North America alone cannot make $1 billion on the box office. It takes the world, and it takes China more than any other country besides the U.S. And that's another thing going against it. Now, if a vaccine was going to happen, pretend by March 20% of the population gets a vaccine. Let's just say that. Then I think more than likely, another thing I just noticed that could go against it is theaters going bankrupt. Right now, AMC, Regal, Cinemark, all these other theater chains, they're struggling. They're really, really struggling. And, that theatrical experience. And then also, let's remember, Disney is now going full-on consumer marketing right now, giving all the consumers that are Disney Plus supporters You know, all these they're more prioritizing Disney Plus now, and the same thing with Warner Bros. With HBO Max. Because remember, just recently they said Wonder Woman 84 is going to be on HBO Max, Godzilla vs. Kong, HBO Max, Matrix, HBO Max, Dune, HBO Max, Space Jam, HBO Max. They're all going to be HBO Max films. And I know lots of people are going to use the excuse, oh, but they're also going to be in theaters. But really, that's not... Yes, they're going to be in theaters, but you're basically taking away over half of, because look, people that are at home, they're gonna be like, oh, you're telling me for just $15, I can stay at home and not just pay for that brand new film that's coming out, but I also get this entire library of content. You know, a lot of shows, a lot of movies, and people are like $15 because a lot of movie tickets are really expensive. I think in LA I heard something like this, but I think it's $13. Imagine the $2 difference for way more content. Over here where I'm from, it's $11, and you know, it makes a big difference. Imagine you're told for just $4 more, not only do you get to see this new full theatrical film at your own home, you get to see all these other shows, all these movies that you probably will love. Of course, that for extra bucks seems like nothing anymore. But then you're told it's monthly, of course. But yeah, that's Spideyverse. If the theatrical run right now, it's in danger. I don't think it's like, I think John Campea said this the best. It's gonna be turned into vinyl records. Soon theaters are gonna be extinct, or maybe there's gonna be a few like in your local area with small, that maybe one Friday they play Die Hard, and the next they play Lord of the Rings, and then the next they play some Harry Potters, and you know, whatever. But it's never going to be the same where, oh, we got a brand new Wonder Woman film coming out, or we got a brand new Godzilla film coming out. Why don't you come and join us? And we're never going to get that experience of having a packed full theater with other people cheering and crying and laughing, whatever it is, and see that brand new film in that surround sound system. We're never going to get that. We really aren't. And that Spideyverse, like that Spideyverse film, if it's going to happen, it's going to be in dire circumstances, because right now it's almost impossible. The only way it becomes unimpossible right now that theaters stay alive is if, pretend a month from now, I'm just going to give it a month. If a month from now there's a vaccine and all of a sudden everyone wants to go back in theaters, explore that theatrical run, then yeah, maybe it'll come back. And maybe Warner Bros. Will be like, oh, maybe we shouldn't release it on HBO Max. Or maybe Disney Plus will be like, oh, no more Disney Plus. We're going to go for the theatrical run. That I do think is impossible, or nearly impossible, because there's no way they would just distribute the vaccine that quickly. But yeah, the pandemic has ruined movie theaters for all of us for the rest of our lives, and that's why I tell people a Spideyverse film will not beat Endgame, and especially with no more theaters. I think Endgame is truly the last and the number one film of all time now, because it's a perfect name, Endgame. And I keep telling people this: the pandemic has caused movies to end. I remember a few months ago I said the theatrical run is going to be over. Back in July, back in August when Tenet was coming out, I'm like, the theatrical run's coming back, boys. Tenet is going to do well. It's going to be the first penguin out of the water, and then all these other movies will come out. Disney, Warner Bros., all these other companies are going to want that theatrical run again. But no, I was wrong. And I hate being wrong, but I was wrong about that. And now in like October or November, I think I accepted the fact that theaters are going to be over. And, you know, that theatrical experience I enjoyed so much for my entire life has been taken away for this stupid pandemic. And I know that this pandemic has caused much more harm to other people and I apologize for those people. I know they're going through way more things, and I really do apologize. But me and my personal, the number one thing it's taken away from me is that theatrical experience. Because I've said this before, ever since I was a kid, knowing that I'm going to the theater that day was the greatest moment. I remember when I was young and I was just cheering and watching Kung Fu Panda, you know, watching Shrek 3, watching Shrek 4, watching Megamind, and then watching the Avengers. I remember watching Endgame, and our theater wasn't that loud, but you could really feel the emotion of people being happy and sad and crying and laughing all together. I remember I went to go watch Endgame. I wanted to go watch Aquaman, and everyone was cheering after, and now that theatrical run is over, And I know this video is all about it could Spider-Verse beat Endgame, but I'm not even talking about that mostly. I'm mostly ranting about the theatrical experience. And to me, it just breaks my heart knowing that my whole life, that one thing I love is going to be stripped away from me. I went to go watch Tenet, and it didn't feel the same. I only saw like a good 5 other people out in the parking lot, or in the theater, I mean. And I remember being so disappointed. But now I feel it. I do think the theatrical run's over. That 100-year theatrical run is now complete, done, and it's done its lapse. Now it's just going to be straight to home consumer market. Now we're going to have Disney being like, oh, you want to watch this brand new Black Widow film? Then go ahead and sign up for Disney Plus to $8 a month just so you can enjoy Black Widow where it was meant to see, at your home. And then you have other films like, they're going to be like, oh, you want to watch the Lion King sequel? It's at Disney Plus now. So now pay monthly for Disney Plus. And then HBO Max is going to do the same. Oh, you want to watch Godzilla vs. Kong? It's on HBO Max only for a subscription of $14 a month. Seriously, I am done and sick of this. I just want theaters to come back, but it's so... And the thing is, I have nobody to blame. No, there's, like, normally you can blame someone for something going wrong. Like, if a Star Wars movie is bad, you can just blame George Lucas or something like that. I don't know. But this whole thing is nobody's fault. The pandemic started. It wasn't made by humans. And it just spread and spread and spread. And I understand people not wanting to go to theaters. Theaters right now, the more they stay open, the more money they lose. And it's like, there's nobody to blame. There's no one specific person I can blame. I can't blame the president because it's not like he did anything to cause the pandemic. I can't blame the people who aren't wearing masks because this pandemic is still spreading regardless. No matter what, there is nobody specific to blame about this, and that's the worst part. It's like, I just want my theaters back. I want to go to the theaters and enjoy a brand new film, enjoying that great popcorn, getting myself a Diet Coke or an Icy, and, just watching this fabulous film with all other fellow film fans just laughing and crying and cheering. And, I just miss that. I miss that so much. And, I just want that back. I really do. Like, I would do anything. And that's why I want to go watch Wonder Woman 84 in theaters. Because, I want to experience the theatrical run for one last time at least. And I'm going to try doing that for, like, a Godzilla vs. Kong if it comes out in theaters. I'm going to try doing that for a few movies. Maybe not all of them. Like, I'm not going to watch Space Jam in theaters because I feel like I would rather... Because I have HBO Max and Disney Plus. I pay for those monthly. But, yeah... to me, I just miss that theatrical run. I really do. And I can't stand the fact that now I have to watch my movies at home. I cannot stand watching it in my room. My room, I have this tiny little TV where I play my PlayStation. And I know it makes it sound like it's tiny. It's really not that tiny, but it's way smaller compared to the theatrical. I don't have surround sound system. My household is really loud. Like, my mom's cooking, my dad's always watching TV in the living room, my sister's in her room just doing whatever. And so it's like, for me, I don't have that full experience. That theatrical experience will never be being. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, they're always like, oh, I like the choice of staying home and watching it because I don't want to leave my house because I'm too lazy. And the thing is, that experience is never gonna be being. That experience will never ever be being. And honestly, like, to me, that is something that breaks my heart truly. And when I talk to anybody about this, I sound over dramatic when I tell people my true feelings on this whole theatrical run being over. We're really in Armageddon now with the theater runs. But yeah, honestly, like, man, it just breaks my heart. It really does. It's like my house, and then also the windows. I have these 3 big windows. I think you guys can see in some of my videos where I do a face cam where there's this big window behind me. No matter how much I close the curtains, the light still comes in. And the only time I can, it's at night. But at night, I want to sleep. I like you know what I mean? Like, I gotta wake up early in the morning every day, make a podcast, then go to work, and then do everything else, and then work out, all that. And to me, it breaks my heart knowing that is going to be stripped away. And I know this whole podcast was based on my opinion on Spideyverse and Endgame, and I changed it to the whole theater thing run. But I feel like I got too emotional over that. I didn't even, in fact, I stopped bothering to read my notes because I love doing these podcasts for the simple fact that I feel like I'm actually doing conversations, because I can't talk to this about any other people, because I try to talk to most of my friends all about movies. All I want to do is talk about movies, but they eventually get tired of it. They eventually get tired of me just talking about movies. Like, all right, let me just drink some water and then I'll end off the show real quick. Hold up, give me a minute. All right. I apologize for that, but yeah, that theatrical run has been stripped away from me. If a Spideyverse film was to come out in theaters in these circumstances where there's still a pandemic, then no, it's not going to make it. Even without the pandemic, I would also say it wouldn't make it. For two reasons. One, the theaters are probably going to be over. There's a 99% chance for me that the theatrical run will forever be done. No more brand new movies on Thursday nights. No more midnight premieres with other fellow film fans. No more doing reviews out of the theater. Now, from now on, it's just going to be us watching a brand new movie at home and then texting our friends being like, hey, did you see that new brand new Black Widow film? It's going to feel like if we're watching a series instead of a movie. I tell this to people. The theatrical experience is better than just watching a show at home. Movies are better than shows, or in my subjective opinion, that's what I think. But to me, movies are better than shows for the simple fact that you're all connected. It's much more longer. And it's, the characters you make in this journey. And now it's going to feel like Game of Thrones, where we're like, oh, did you see the brand new Dune movie? Ha! Okay. And I apologize if I sound like I'm over dramatic, but honestly, that theatrical run, it just disappoints me so much. Like a few days ago, I was devastated. Like I drove by my local theater to just kind of see. I saw 2 cars in the parking lot. My parents recently went on a date to watch this one film I've never heard of. I don't even remember what it was called, but it's apparently this indie film. It's a romance film, and they said that the parking lot was empty. And I kept telling my parents all about how we're in theater Armageddon, and they called me crazy. They were saying how everything will be back to normal because movies are popular. And I told them no. From the statistics and from the evidence, it shows that it's going to be over soon. And a Spideyverse film is definitely not going to make $1 billion in that circumstance. No movie's going to make $1 billion in whether it's a pandemic circumstance or whether it's in a direct-to-consumer circumstance. As happy as I am knowing that on Christmas I will be watching Wonder Woman 84, it still saddens me knowing I'm not going to watch with the full pack audience, because I know it's early on because I bought my tickets the opening day. I remember with previous movies, with Aquaman, Shazam, Endgame, Joker, when I bought my tickets in advance, they would always be almost empty if I got them too late, and I would always wait early, and then I beat everyone to that middle seat because I love that middle seat. But yeah, when I went to see the ticket for Wonder Woman 84, there was nothing. There was genuinely nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing whatsoever. And that really disappoints me. And I really just want that theatrical experience back. And now I'm going to end off the podcast by saying this. If you really care about movie theaters, if you really do, then if you feel safe and if you're in a place that there's theaters, then please go out and support your local theaters. Whether it's an AMC or Regal Cinemark. I know we're not enough. I only have 72 subscribers, and on average I get 20 views, so it's really not that much. But you, if you're a big theatrical fan, then please go out and help theaters. Please just go and help, theaters make the money they need to provide us the best possible viewing experience. Because that's really all I'm doing right now, is helping theaters in any way I can. And I know I'm not doing much. My $11 isn't going to save the theatrical experience. And me paying $40 on like tickets and popcorn and all that ain't gonna help either. But to me, man, it's just I just want that theatrical run again. I just do. I don't know this was supposed to be Spideyverse talk, but I feel like that I can't talk about Spideyverse making $1 billion without talking about this. And so overall, to end off this podcast, I'm gonna say this: 2% chance that Spideyverse could beat Endgame, and 1% chance that the theatrical run comes back to normal. They're going to be like vinyl records. They're going to be like CDs. They're going to go nearly extinct, and I hope I'm wrong about that. Or maybe I'm just watching too much of the John Campea show. But yeah, that's my whole thoughts on this. That's my whole opinion on this matter. And, I'm really going to miss the theatrical run. Thank you guys for watching this video. I know it sounds depressing, but yeah, it saddens me knowing that, it just really does sadden me. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this episode of the podcast. I think this is my favorite episode so far, and this was the longest episode with 40 minutes. I am planning on doing longer podcasts because that's how podcasts work, where, I was doing them really short. Someone told me that they should be longer. I think my limit is going to be 30 minutes for now. Because remember, I'm just a small YouTuber. Not that many people want to listen to my podcast. Not that many people want to listen to what I got to say. But yeah. Anyways, follow me on Instagram, Isaac the Film Geek. It's here on the screen. This is an Isaac the Film Geek podcast, daily film talk channel. There's a playlist on all the episodes, so please go ahead and watch the previous episodes. Hit the subscribe button with notification bells, because every day I upload an episode of the podcast. The only times I don't upload are Sundays, but that's really it. And even then, sometimes I will upload on a Sunday, and maybe even not on a Saturday, but that's just occasional. But either way, please smash that like button. Comment down below your thoughts on this whole. Do you think Spideyverse is gonna be Endgame? Do you think Endgame is gonna stay to that title? What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. And also, if you want to talk to me privately about movie talk, I'm free. My DMs are free. So follow me on Instagram, Isaac the Film Geek. So thank you guys for watching. Until next time, bye bye.